Welcome everybody to this special meeting of Millburn School District 24 Board of Education. We could have roll call, please.
Ms. Boss?
Present.
Mr. Coleman?
Present.
Mr. Gray? Mr. Lorenzen?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Pederini?
Here.
Ms. Roberts? Here.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, before we jump to public comments, I just want to make sure everyone understands. As a school board, we are elected representative of you, the people, but we do all of our business right out front so everybody can see it and know what's going on, and we allow public comments. Normal practice is not to respond to comments, but listen to them. We do take them into account during our discussion, and because what we really want to do is make sure that we fulfill the will of the people. Okay? Comments, you should have signed up for comments, so if anybody has not signed up, please let us know. And they last for 3 minutes. We have a timer set. When your time's done, please end your comment and go ahead and sit down. We can't force you to do anything, but we do depend on respecting each other to get through meetings like this. Okay? Thank you. So, public comment.
Kristen Betancourt?
I'm Kristen Betancourt. I'm one of the social workers here at Millburn. I work with early childhood. I work with early childhood through second grade here in Millburn Elementary. For the past 16 years, it has been my privilege to work with and support your children on their social emotional path to adulthood. It gives me great joy to listen to your students' stories, help them problem solve a difficult situation in their classrooms, encourage them in their social interactions with peers and teachers, and exchange smiles and kind words with each other as we pass in the hallways. Teaching the importance of empathy and good sportsmanship across all life situations gives me a profound sense of pride as I watch your children grow and develop into the leaders of tomorrow. Never once have I regretted my decision to leave a lucrative career in corporate America 18 years ago to pursue my calling into social work. It has been a blessing each day to work with you and your children. The last few years have been difficult for all of us. We have all had to navigate a new normal as we live with the restrictions and effects of COVID-19. I have also had to accept a new normal on a more personal level. Sorry. As I was diagnosed with a rare and curable blood cancer 3 years ago. I'm doing well, but the reality of recurrence and for future treatment is always just beyond my conscious thoughts. The reality of COVID further complicates life decisions, as doctors have stressed that if I catch COVID-19, I will it could result in severe illness due to my compromised immune system. It pains me greatly that the school board's decision to move to a mask optional environment may limit my ability to provide the best possible services to your children. Many days I am observing and helping in the classrooms. I lead numerous small groups of students during the week. Many social skills lessons and are taught through games and play. These methods will be more difficult to present effectively as social distancing measures are modified to prevent the spread of COVID in a mask optional environment. It is agonizing to think I may have to choose between the work I love and my health. I may be forced to take an unwanted leave of absence in order to protect myself until my doctors deem it safe for me to work with your children in a mask optional environment. By no means am I alone with my fears. Several students and staff at Milburn are living with chronic medical conditions or have close relatives at home with compromised health. School has always been a safe place to come together to learn and grow and support each other.
I'm sorry.
One second. Please consider the impact your decisions tonight will have on the most vulnerable members of the Milburn community. Milburn is a very special place. I ask you to wait a little longer to choose mask optional so that needed safety precautions can be discussed and implemented. Please make heartfelt decisions that will keep Milburn safe for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen.
Paul Hunsicker.
Good evening. My name is Paul Hunsicker. I have two boys here in the Milburn District, one here at the middle school and one at the elementary school. And I just want to take a couple seconds out of my time to, number one, thank the board for their service in a voluntary position, which I understand and respect. I don't have the time to do such a thing myself, and again, thank you. I also understand that everybody's experience with COVID these past 2 years has been drastically different. From knowing people that have gotten the illness in the past to people that have gotten the illness, been completely asymptomatic and been back on their feet within no time at all. Please forgive me, I wasn't planning on actually speaking today, but I apparently am awarded the second position by arriving early, which is something that is, I'm working on that. That being said, we are at a point now where 2 years into this pandemic, we have come to a point where we know COVID is not disappearing. It's popping back up in different variants with different symptoms, and again, affecting people completely differently. For most healthy people, it's not an issue. I don't have pages and pages of documents put together because, like I said, this is all extemporaneous. I'm not really much of an eloquent speaker, but I can point to a number of different studies that have come out, if you would give me the opportunity at some point, that have shown that masking has not been effective in reducing the spread of COVID-19 in the community-based scenario. We have found that masking mandates in areas with large populations, such as Chicago, are not effective in stopping the spread of COVID-19, as opposed to other areas where masking restrictions have not been implemented. From a health perspective, not that I am a doctor by any means, I don't intend to portray myself that way, but we do know that proper hand washing, social distancing, air turnovers, circulation, ventilation in the room is what I'm referring to, has been effective in reducing the spread of COVID-19. Beyond that, we get into a situation of, we have 2 years of our young children's lives that have been covered their face is covered so that they can't see each other's smiles, they can't see each other's expressions, and it's affecting them mentally, it's affecting them socially, and we are seeing an increase in youth suicides at a rate that is unprecedented. Now, I myself, and I hate to come up after a heart-wrenching story previous to the other one, but I myself am immune compromised. I take several medications that are immunosuppressants, and I kicked COVID in 2 days. Again, everybody's experience is different, but I do not want our fear to be the detriment of our children's lives, setting them back. And I choose to not be afraid going forward. Thank you.
Brett Clark.
How you doing? My name is Brett Clark. I don't represent anybody but my family and my 2 kids that attend Milburn. I want to start out just like the gentleman did. Prior to me, thanking you guys for what you guys do. I know this past 2 years has been something none of you signed up to have to deal with, so that burden is something I wouldn't have wanted to take on myself, so thank you for giving us this opportunity. That's all a big part of why I've stayed out of being vocal with stuff going on in school particularly, because it's just a position I wouldn't want to be in either. That being said, I chose I had to speak tonight on behalf of my family, including my kids, because I caught wind late last week of a policy or a draft that Mr. Lynn was going to submit to you guys for approval. And word was is that that policy was going to remove his need to get things approved by you guys, essentially giving him all the ability to make all decisions COVID related, future or not. I'm here to politely inform you guys, I'm not okay with that. And if that's the case, if that's the decision that you guys take, I don't agree with it. Just politely letting you know that my family and I will be proceeding with the route that we've informed Mr. Lynn and Mr. Walshire about. I think it goes against everything the gentleman just spoke with to begin with. It puts everything out in public. It removes all transparency, all checks and balances that are supposed to happen. Anybody that's unionized at their place of employment that may disagree with me, I'd ask you to honestly answer that question to yourself. If admin or your employer put those types of stipulations on anything negotiations related, I know certainly your answer would be no. And I know that because I'm our union president where I work. So I know how negotiations work. I like parts about them, I don't like parts about them, but carte blanche is something union organizations are not fond of. That being said as well, the neighboring district is going along with the lawsuit because it's been deemed, as I said in the email to you guys, it's illegal. You remove all political opinions, all self-experts, it's illegal. Not only is it deemed illegal now, it's been ruled it's been illegal this entire time. So the neighboring district sent out a very simple letter saying they're removing this stuff. They're not going to tolerate any form of harassment for masked kids or unmasked kids, and same for staff. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Harassment needs to be cut off, not just at the kids, but even further. I think we're fortunate enough at Milburn. We're new to this district, but my kids love it so far. I don't think we'll have the problem with staff and admin, but I'm just saying the guarantee needs to go farther than that, because harassment, bullying, has started from in my house day one of my kids becoming social, and that's where it needs to start, and it needs to go beyond that with you guys. Again, their letter is very simple, and again, I thank you for your time, what you guys do. I just don't agree with, nor do I think it's a good idea to go with a policy such as that. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bart. Megan Konecki.
First, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the Board of Education. Why? Let's try that again. I'm Megan Conkey. I'm here tonight as a community member, a teacher, and a parent. I want to say thank you to the Board of Education. While I have not been in here in person the last 2 years, I have watched every board meeting online. I want to say thank you to the administration for everything that they are doing during this incredibly difficult time for the students and the staff. Thank you. I want to say thank you to all of the teachers who are here tonight, who are dedicating every ounce of their day to their students and giving them everything they have. I am here tonight because we are talking about going mask optional, and I understand that there are people on both sides of this fence, and I understand that. I am asking that we reconsider this. As a parent, my daughter will be having heart surgery in 28 days, and they will be operating to fix her heart. And that is not the first surgery she will be undergoing, or the second, but it will be one of 3. I am also immunocompromised, and I come every day for these kids, and I'm dedicated to them, and I have for the last 17 years. I am scared, I am terrified, but I will walk in those doors for those kids like I will walk in them for every day. But know that I will be scared and terrified. Almost 20 years ago, I student taught in the inner city of Green Bay, and I walked in with security guards, metal detectors, and that was a vast difference from when I grew up here. And what I noticed right away, when those kids felt safe, when they felt comfortable, they learned, they grew, they flourished. Now, I don't know how these kids will feel tomorrow, but if they do not feel safe, we will not have learning, we will not have growing. 10 years ago, some of us were in this building as we were deciding if we were going to go from a K-8 model to a building level centers. And again, we were split, we were divided, there were different thoughts. So this is where we need to come together as a Millburn community with different thoughts, different opinions, because we are here for the kids, and we need to keep that in mind. But we also have to understand that we all need to feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Ms. Jennifer Hughes? Floyd? Not Floyd.
I have 2 boys here at Millburn, and one at the middle school and one at the elementary school. Anybody that's been in elementary knows my 10-year-old son. He has leukemia currently, and he has been trying to go to school every day since he was diagnosed when he was 8. So as far as that goes, he will be in treatment until he's 18. So he has a long road to go. My 12-year-old, however, is free spirit, 12, wants to play, hang out, whatever. The choice for them, I want it to be their own. I want them to do what they think they should do. My older one is very torn because he doesn't want to get his brother sick. However, I had COVID, my older son had COVID in 2020 of October. We were in the house for 14 days, all 3 of us, and my younger son never got it. How, I don't know, but that little kid is fighting for everybody. He doesn't like to wear his mask. He doesn't like to be made fun of because he's wearing his mask. There's a lot of push-pull with that, as far as, bullying and whatnot. He's a tough kid, but he doesn't want to go to the principal's office. As far as that said, I really feel that they have strong opinions about wearing masks. He's already told me, I don't want to wear a mask in gym class, but he has a port in his chest, so he really can't be in gym class, but he still does it. So as a parent and as a divorced parent, I also have another parent to fight with about this, along with whatever's going on in the world. So my opinion may not matter, but as far as, the kids go, I just want to see them smile. That's it. I'm under 3 minutes, sorry.
David Cunningham?
I'm good. I don't want it. I'm just kidding.
John Ruggles?
Hi, I'm John Ruggles. I'm not going to take long because I think a couple of people said really what I came to say. It's kind of weird because if you ask me, your kid can have a normal childhood, but there's a 1 in 5 million chance they're going to die if they go to school. I'm taking that chance. I want my child to have a normal childhood, and I'll do everything I can to make that happen. Now, I think the mask thing, I don't want to rehash the mask thing. But what I'm asking you guys to do, and again, I said this last week, I appreciate it's a non-paying job. Nobody wants it. I mean, it's hard. Thank you guys for being up here and listening to us. I want transparency, and I want you to tell us why you do things. I think that's incumbent upon you. Today, I heard a report that the CDC withheld information. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Withheld information that you all are making decisions on. So we can't just say the CDC says this. Don't be trust them anymore. I did put in my pocket, real quick, the booster shot data that they had for ages 18 to 49.
Yep.
Didn't tell anybody. How are you going to make a decision? Breakthrough cases for vaccinated people. Had the data, and you know what they said? It wasn't ready for prime time. In other words, we don't trust the public with it. If you guys do anything, and it sounds like we're gonna go mask optional, maybe not, maybe we are. I'm worried about the future. If we get another variant, and you know we will, if it's just as deadly as the Delta, I'm worried the CDC, who just Friday said we still need to be wearing masks. I think there's 200 countries in the world, and 7 are masking their kids. We're one of them. There's 50 states, and I think 5 are masking their kids. Illinois is one of them. What are we doing? So if you, again, I'm more worried about the future. So when you come back and say, hey, there's a variant, we gotta mask the kids again, the CDC and Dr. Fauci said we have to do it, which they just said we need to on Friday, believe it or not, with all this going on. I need you guys, we need you guys as parents to show us the data and tell us why you're taking freedoms away. Because kids have died for those freedoms. 16, 18-year-olds went to war for these freedoms and died for these freedoms. So if you're going to take them away from us, please give us the data, be transparent, and let's talk about it before we do this again.
Diana Rinaldi.
Diama. Reynolds.
Diama, sorry.
That's okay. And I have a son here at the middle school. Similar to what the gentleman before me said, I think a lot of this has been said. I think, you know, we're all at a point where we're extremely frustrated. I think we as parents are realizing that we have been led to believe that this was the only option, that your hands were tied, when in reality they weren't. I look at my nieces and nephews in our home state of Florida who have been without a mask for 18 months in their school, and I can tell you their outcomes in terms of spread and illness are no different. But I will tell you that their social and their emotional well-being is off the charts compared to my 8th grader and what he has experienced over the last 2 years. I have watched him not be able to have normal social interactions with his friends at school. No locker, no standing at lunchtime, rushing to finish his lunch for those few minutes of the day that he gets to be with his friends and goof around. I saw something in the 8th grade group chat the other day in Schoology commending the students for social distancing appropriately and not speaking in the hallway and sitting facing forward at lunch. And I thought, is my child in prison? I mean, really, this is what we're advocating for our kids for. It's gotten out of hand. I was at a conference with some of the top rheumatologists in this nation over the weekend. And overwhelmingly, they all stated about the immunocompromised patients that they treat and how they have always had to guide them in the way to remain safe, because any virus, flu, cold, any of those things could be deadly to anyone who's immunocompromised. And whether COVID existed or not, they would be advising them as it relates to that. Our children are not at risk. In a week, they're gonna go to Walmart and Target and every restaurant in this state and be able to be unmasked. And then we're gonna force them into them to come back into this building. The time to unmask them has come. The decisions about the health and safety of my son rest with my husband and I, not with the state of Illinois, not with District 24, and not with the school board. My husband and I will make those decisions moving forward. I implore you to make the right decision tonight. Thank you.
Here.
Thank you guys for what you do, just to keep it short, so I don't go over my 3 minutes. I've been in contact with, Mr. Lynn for a couple of months now. He met me first when I came to read to my son on a Friday. And I showed up in uniform. And I had to wear a mask. At my son's birthday party, they all saw me read to him that Friday. But they didn't see my face. So when they came to my son's birthday party, they had no idea who I was. And it's not that I wanted them to know that I'm a police officer. I sacrificed my life for people that I don't even know. It's that those kids didn't know that my son, his dad came to visit them in this school. It was heartbreaking. Yet they're running around at a birthday party with 30 plus kids with no mask. Just to touch on a few things that have kind of drawn my attention to what I do for a living and what I think is important. This is why we have laws and courts to help us out. This was sent to me in an email from somebody that represents this school district. The courts have decided, the law has decided, and I know it's a temporary restraining order, but it's not temporary right now because it's in effect. Regardless of temporary, it could end tomorrow, it could end in 6 months. That temporary order matters because it's in effect now. They're violating the law, they're violating our constitutional rights, and every day that it continues to go, I promise you, lawsuits will come, subpoenas will come, FOIAs will come, and it's just gonna litter every single person at that school with nonsense and things that they don't need to deal with. They just need to focus on teaching. If they wanna wear a mask, they can wear a mask. It's gonna be optional in a few days for the entire state, other than schools. Makes no sense. I think that given the circumstance, you guys can all go to a restaurant, right? Let me put this into perspective. You can go into a restaurant. You have to walk in with a mask, but you can take it off when you sit down. I say we put restaurant tables in every single room in this school. How about that? Does that matter? Is that a difference? That's what makes no sense. The science, I don't care. I don't care. It's law. And if anyone wants to break the law, you are going to get sued. It's happening all over the state. And another email that was sent to me was in more specific to the surrounding school districts that are currently mask optional. There was 3 listed in that email that are no longer, like, literally, tomorrow they're gonna be mask optional. Those are the only ones that are left, plus this one. Those are the only 3 that were mentioned. Surrounding the entire area around here, everybody else is optional. Thank you for your time. I'm not going to take any longer than other people might want to speak. So. I'll help build the restaurant for you if we have to.
Thank you, ma'am.
Elizabeth Jones.
First of all, thank you all for doing what you do. Thank you, teachers who are here. I am not, excuse me. I have a long-standing relationship with this school. I have an almost 21-year-old son who went through Milburn, a 17-year-old daughter who went through Milburn, and now a 5-year-old. I'm also not lost on the fact that COVID does have its impacts on many people differently. We were impacted as well. We have different health situations in our household as well that we need to be conscious of. Sorry. The reason I'm putting my hand up is I am 3 weeks out from open heart surgery. I'm not lost to the fact that this is an important cause. However, this has been going on a long time. When I see my 5-year-old masking up to go to school, it breaks my heart. He is not getting what he needs
socially, emotionally. His speech is deteriorating. His speech is garbled. I think it's extremely important that we take these things into account when we're talking about the continuation of masking our students and our children. We do have to look at data, because data has shown these paper masks, these fabric masks aren't really helping anything. And I want to share my story because I think it's important. There's a wide range of health situations, and we all have to take accountability for ourselves and make the decisions for ourselves and our family to do what we feel is right. And I don't think our children should be governed by a school board, by a school district in this manner. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Lucy.
Kimball Kelly.
Hello, Kimball Kelly. I was not prepared to speak today, so I don't have much, but I did, with the survey was sent out on the masks. I started to fill it out. I thought it was going to be yes or no, but then there was a comment section. I wanted to think about what to say, and then when I went to fill it out, it locked me out. I couldn't do it. So I just wanted to make sure that our family's voice was heard, that we are ready to go. Our choice would be no mask. My daughter is in the high school right now, and they were part of that lawsuit. So I told her she was comfortable with it, you know, and I don't know if she's gonna have any issues with the other kids. She said she did get a little, I don't think anything major, but she got a little bit of attitude from some of the kids, but I didn't push on her and let her do it, but I don't think we should be forced to do it. We should have the option. And we're just ready to move on, and I know that, I don't know what else to say, but especially with, I know this isn't the school, but we see in the Park District, my son's playing basketball, they're running up and down the court with a mask on, beat red, and, you know, gasping for air, and we're ready to move on. That's our family's decision, and when we are in our home or we have guests over, nobody's wearing a mask, and they see it all over, and this is, if it's forced here only, you're gonna have, this isn't the only place you go every day of your life. You go to the grocery store, there's people not wearing masks there, but I just know people associate with their friends and family, people they don't live with, and they don't wear masks together. So I think we should have the option here. I have no problem with anyone wearing a mask if they want to. And I would tell my kids, you know, they're not going to say it anyways, but leave them be. That's their choice, and I'm happy that if they're comfortable with that, that's fine. I just would like us to have the option to not have to wear them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. Our first action item, resolution approving mitigation measures against COVID-19 and the authority related to pandemic operations for 2021-22 school year. Any motions on that? You have any motions on that?
I think we should review parts of it.
Guys, can you speak up a little bit?
Okay, I don't have a microphone.
You can have
I'm really looking at section 2, delegation of authority. All right, I'm okay with A makes sense. I'm really concerned about B, C, and D. E and F makes sense.
interpret and implement as the superintendent determines appropriate under local conditions and directives of the guidance, which has, will continue to be issued and updated by various state, federal, local authorities regarding means, methods. I'm concerned about interpret. I would assume if the state, federal, or Lake County mandates something, we have to do it, right? You know, if the state comes down with another one and says, if you don't, you're screwed, then we have to do it anyways, right? Or,
There's always choices. So as I explained to the board previously, you always have a choice to not follow a governor's mandate. Those choices have consequences. When you explain that, then you might make an informed choice and understand it. So yes, as I said in August and as I've said before, you have choices. My job as a superintendent is to provide the board with information about making the choices and the implications for those choices. As was pointed out tonight, which is good.
the question is then, would those choices have to be made in such a timely manner that would prevent us from acting on it within a 2-week period? You know, I mean, we meet every 2 weeks. So whatever, you know, if they say, if Pritzker comes down and says, all right, shut it down, we have another variant, or your accreditation's gonna get pulled, you know, obviously, we need to shut it down. But anything other, you know, other than something like that, what else would, you know, what else would come in within a 2-week period?
Some of the more minor changes that we've adjusted as we've gone along we've adjusted as, like when we shortened the quarantine, for example, from a 10-day to a 5-day quarantine right after winter break. If I don't have authority to do that, that's okay. I don't want any of this authority, by the way. You can take it back. But then we would have had to have a special meeting in order to do that, or if the board meeting fell on that time, that's great. So, and that's okay. If I would have had the authority under this already, we wouldn't have to have this meeting to go to mask optional. But that's not the way we set it up. So it's okay. I don't care about this and having this authority. My job is to inform the board and provide information. You hire me. You need to make that clear about what my role is and direct it. So you tell me, this is the board telling me what to do, which I have done, I think, unless the board has told me differently, unless I'm understanding differently.
I understand that, but I think it's a little too lenient, at least in B. You know, to make it, you know, maybe something to make accommodations to comply with state, federal, and local requirements might be a better wording instead of interpret and implement.
Say that one more time?
To comply, to make decisions in order to comply with state or federal, state, and local mandates, issues, directives, yeah. As opposed to giving such leniency.
I think the word interpret is, it's broad.
Yeah, I think it's.
And not that we don't, or I don't trust you as a person, but
In theory, you could drop dead from a aneurysm from going crazy from all this tomorrow, so.
And then we get somebody in here who rules with an iron fist and says, hey, look at this, I don't have to get your permission for anything. So it's one of those kind of protective measures for us, at least that's how I see it, so I'd certainly like to see some adjustment to that as well.
On the other side, we've seen that whatever they sent down from the state generally has to be interpreted somehow. It's not clear what's going on.
Right.
And so this gives them the opportunity to do it. And you know, he generally says, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm gonna do, and then at our next meeting, within 2 weeks, if it's not something we like, or we can call a special meeting and say, we don't agree with your interpretation of this, let's make a change.
If it's a broke, don't fix it though.
Well, I mean, is there a way to put interpret and implement in order to comply with directives from the federal, state, and local governments? I think that might be.
You know, what I'd say I think is missing here, and this is very common when you're trying to capture ideas in a written document. I think what's missing is the spirit of cooperation that we've had in the past. And what has happened, and for all those in the audience, there has been cooperation amongst board members and Dr. Lind. You have to know as a board what you're educated when you take the position. What you're educated in is the idea that the superintendent and the administration handle the day-to-day operations within the school. They use the analogy of when you're, standing up in the audience watching the dance, right? You don't get involved, you don't tell people how to dance. You stand up and you watch it, but you provide policy that governs how that's gonna work. There has been cooperation in the past. I agree, John, with B here in section 2. I think in order to find something that's more reflective of the cooperation that we've had in the past, and it has been very good, is to say that if there is a change to section 1, special meetings should take place. And I think as we work through this, we may have to have more meetings. But I think a special meeting takes place, but Jason has always been very good about saying, this is what I intend to do, and reaching out to each of us to ask if we have any problems with that. I think that's important, and that has been the spirit of cooperation that we've had. That has worked so far. I think the real problem, or at least perhaps the issue that we may have in reading section 2 is it does give some idea of complete autonomy, and that's not how we operate.
Yeah, no,
And I think
my concern.
the concern is if we move away from what's contained in section 1. If we're to vote on something, if we're voting this in totality, we need to implement a check and a balance, and make sure that this cooperation continues.
Yeah.
We were elected.
Yeah.
So, absolutely important that we have that. And I will say, as a board member, I appreciate what Dr. Lind has done.
Did you have something you want to say? I'm sorry,
Yes, so I don't necessarily find anything problematic as it relates to interpretation of local, state, federal ordinances. The issue that I'm finding is in paragraph 2C as it relates to changing the mitigation measures in a lot of those. And that's the first thing that I saw, and that's the one thing that I zeroed in on because it completely removes the entire board of my entire purpose of being here as it was. And I know that no one that I've spoken with has been okay with that being a part of this resolution. And I know that I'm not okay with it because I would much rather drop everything and go to a special meeting than put that responsibility into someone else's hands who does not answer to anybody else.
So nothing that Jason does is in a vacuum. And like Sean indicated, in a way that I would have attempted to, but a few minutes ago before he got into it, probably got a little bit more animated, is that Dr. Lind has been nothing but transparent. Not only throughout COVID, but throughout his entire tenure here, which predates my time on the board. Brendan can further attest to that. In no way in this resolution is Dr. Lind searching for some sort of power over the community or over the board. I think it's important that everyone in attendance here understands that. And if you're in disagreement, I implore you to go through and read other resolutions that have been passed before in rooms that were empty. And ask
What about
yourself,
the next superintendent?
the next superintendent, sir, would also answer to the board that is in place at that time, as all superintendents answer to all boards that employ them.
But this statement says that he doesn't have to answer.
I'd also like to remind everyone that public comments are over, so I appreciate you being in attendance. Thank you.
Don't respond. We were discussing.
Jason, can you provide the source of this document?
Yep. This was from our law firm. This is a document that has been approved by the other local school districts around here. Stephen, I thank you. No, in no way am I looking for the power, and I'd be happy to remove those paragraphs. Thrilled. Please do. I agree. If we want a special meeting, that's okay. Other school districts don't want that, and that's okay too. This is only good through June 30th, and I think that's maybe a misunderstanding too. This isn't carte blanche for forever. This is only through June 30th. So it's a very temporary order just to get us through the rest of the school year. But if the board is willing to take that on, and you were, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you looking out for me to provide cover, because I don't want to be the one making that decision all the time at all. I have been saying that. I don't have the power, and I agree, I don't want the power. So I appreciate the board stepping up and taking that on for me. So if we remove that, I just want to be clear that this is not from me. This is just a template. It has specific information about Milburn because our attorneys, made it for Milburn in our circumstances. But it's a template that it's sitting on the CEDAW board, for example. I'm a board member there, so I understand your position. We drafted this, and what it allowed us to do is Dr. Donnan today was able to provide a mask recommended environment for those kids without having us to convene a board meeting. And that's a little bit trickier to convene than us here, but that's why that's in there. It's okay, you're not offending me, I don't feel like you're not trusting me because of that. So I just want to make that clear. I don't want the power.
And I want to make sure that it's clear, I'm not insinuating anything, it's just simply a matter of checks and balances. I'm not saying that one person is good or bad, that we lock our doors at night to keep good people honest. It's simply a matter of staying in our lane.
Right, yep. I'm not a health official.
The fact that this is passed at neighboring school districts that are being applauded for going mask optional, it's shocking to me that this delegation of authority was acceptable. And those same school districts are being applauded for the decision.
Yeah, I think of what it's easy to, I will hold my peace.
I think part of what's going on here with the legalese, and it's a little bit confusing, is the section 1 addresses the mitigation pieces that are very clear, right? And the board can choose to change this too if you want to go to a mask mandatory environment, but the board has to make that call. And that's what we've been saying all along, is the board this is not a local decision, right?
And that's what's interesting. It's agreed, the board has to make that call. We're here to vote on that.
Right.
And
yet section 2 is titled delegation of authority. That's
What it's delegating to is to implement section 1.
Yeah, it's a.
But that's okay, we can do that without B and C
And D.
and D.
What we want is for Dr. Lind to be able to take the board's decision about what we say in the section 1 and be able to say to the teachers and staff, here's how we are going to move forward. When you know Dr. Lind's heart and you know the school's heart and you've been plugged into the school other than just to rage and say your piece, you would be aware that our teachers work their ass off. And there's so much more to what they do than masking. And if we had this level of interaction, we had this level of community work in this school that we have tonight, when it came to the other issues, that millions of other issues that affect our children's education, the school would be in a very different place.
And whose fault is that?
Whose fault is it? You tell me, sir, because I have been here for every board meeting.
I'm not saying it's you guys.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's them.
If we could stop heckling the board, please, sir, that'd be great, thank you.
You had some suggestions for changes in B, or would you rather you pull that out?
I have no problems removing C and D. I think they're unnecessary. B, interpret and implement in order to comply with the regulations of the state, of the federal, state, and local government.
Because if John, just to follow up what you just said, when anything in section 1 may be subject to changing based on the change in said regulations.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. I think B, obviously, you do want that in place. We want Dr. Lind, as he has access to, information from different government authorities and the surrounding districts, that allows him to understand how others are interpreting it, and then take that information, and if it's subject to changing anything within section 1, go to the school board and ask for a special meeting.
I would like to be transparent, that any modified, motion to pass this resolution, you should all understand that Dr. Lind emails us, calls us, communicates us with any and every large-scale decision that impacts the school. Like, so, if John takes one of the section B out of this resolution and we approve it, nothing changes if B's in there or if it's not in there. This is a trite conversation. It means nothing.
I do think it means something.
I disagree.
Okay, fine. I think it's important that we continue to exercise the authority to make some decisions based on changes in regulation and anything that would impact content in section 1. I do agree that Dr. Lind has been very good about being open, as I stated before.
But I mean, regardless, you already agree, there's a certain level to interpretation and understanding and making decisions.
That's right.
With board guidance.
To interpret and determine if that could be changing anything within section 1. In that case, I think the board should be consulted and if required, have a special session.
I mean, it's saying the same thing. This is already referencing this. We're just putting it clearly so that there can be no misinterpretation and misunderstanding.
From who?
From the,
From who? Who's going to misunderstand it?
well, it is, because it is about optics.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that want to, read the words and things. And we're just protecting you from that. See what I'm saying?
So, as I see it, if we remove B, C, and D, if there is something that
I wouldn't say remove B, I would say modify.
Modify B.
I would remove C and D. I think they're unnecessary.
So that means if community spread jumps for some reason, whatever, a new variant comes out and if it jumps and it's deadly and everyone's like, you need to close now. We would have to move, we would have to meet
But
first.
we would assume that we would not be the only ones doing that. Lake County would also send out a message saying, hey, plague's coming, we're shutting down.
But,
And we would follow the local instructions, and Dr. Lind would make the accommodations in order to comply with the local government requirements.
And that would be different if C and D were in this resolution.
I don't feel like C and D do anything. I really see them as completely unnecessary.
So you're seeing that D gives him the authority, if there's some sort of emergency, to go ahead, shut down, or remote, and then we'll come to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I would contend that's how we've operated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we've operated, that's what I'm saying, the spirit of cooperation and how we've operated in the past is missing. We have to remember that these attorneys were not in our school board meetings, they weren't part of our call chains. This is legalese. It's a document that I think we should at least move to ensure that the spirit of cooperation continues and that we're not delegating our authority entirely.
So we do shield testing. And let's say he starts seeing, in this week, a sudden rise in infection rates, 10, 15 kids, something really crazy, really fast. Does he have the authority to say, hey, this is happening, maybe we're gonna go remote and so we can meet as a board and make a decision? Or does he have to wait for us to say, to come to a meeting and say, let's go remote?
I think you need to take a look at section 1, what's contained within section 1. Okay, and then if we look at section 2 and A, implement mitigation measures in section 1 above, making adjustments in accordance with paragraph 2C, although based on current health factors and changes to the law. So we have to look at A, right, 2A, and we may have to modify that statement as well, if we were to remove C.
If you were to say making adjustments as required, as necessary, as needed to ensure ABC, XYZ, that might cover it.
Maybe making adjustments as required by law.
Yeah. It's not removing all of what he does, it's just reining in a little bit. And it has nothing to do with.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Jason at all.
I'm talking about some scenarios.
Yeah.
So if IDPH or Lake County Health Department says close down.
Close down,
he
he
can do
can
it.
close us down, yeah.
But if we're doing shield testing, we still got 300 kids doing shield testing, and suddenly he sees a spike in one day, 1 week, and says, hey, we've got a localized thing. It's not IDPH is going to tell us to close down, or maybe they will, maybe he calls them and they say close down. But does he have to wait for us to call a meeting and come and tell him what to do, or can he say, we have this huge spike, I want to go remote tomorrow and figure out what's going on? Can he do that?
I feel like that should be brought, I think that the information should be shared with the community, and the community should have the opportunity to decide what they want to happen.
Okay, so
Like a thought exchange?
if we do, what I'm talking about is, we do shield testing, and there's a sudden spike of, we've had one person in the last 2 weeks, but suddenly he gets 20 kids and says, I think we should go remote tomorrow because we got 20 kids. Maybe there's 50 that haven't been fit yet, and if they come to school tomorrow, we're gonna have this huge problem. I want to go remote today, and let's see what happens and talk to.
Well, could we put like a time limit on that? Because obviously we can meet within, 48 hours.
But that's for special session. We could have an emergency session. If we're talking about, and we did talk about what constitutes a special session versus emergency session. If we see a tremendous spike and there's a real concern, I think as Jason has done, communicated concerns to the community
and what we've seen. And then I would say that's cause for an emergency session. Because we have to, Brendan, you're making a good point.
Yeah.
You have to consider different scenarios and how we might respond. You know, we've heard from community, they're acknowledging there's gonna be variants. There absolutely are. We've seen it. And so maybe some of these new variants are deadly. I think we should have mechanisms in place to be able to respond to that.
We don't have that same 48-hour.
We can do it in less than 48 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, emergency sessions allow you to do it in less than 48 hours. The concern is, you know, using emergency session, what precedent do we establish in using emergency sessions? I think we see a tremendous, and there's great concern. That certainly constitutes an emergency.
But then we also have to identify what is considered a tremendous spike.
That's right. That's right.
And that's just a general, like, where's the bar set?
We can't simply define the thresholds right here, right? Yeah. But I think you'd use reasonable standards, right?
I mean, that's the point of bringing that decision to the board,
Right.
instead of one person. I mean, that's exactly what you're wanting, is for more voices to speak on it. So then it would be a community-driven definition, yeah.
So I guess the threshold would probably be, hey, I feel this is a dangerous situation and I think we need to do something. You need to meet tonight and tell me what to do, because that's what we're telling is he's not allowed to make decisions unless we sit down and talk to him and make the decision for him. So,
Well, unless, you know, the state, federal, or local says, hey, the plague's coming, we're shutting down, and every school in the county has to shut down too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, that's a no-brainer. We don't need to meet, and he can certainly do that by himself.
That's not the decision he's making on his own.
Yeah.
So it's a difference between like implementation versus determination.
if something comes from above.
Yeah,
this-
there's not,
but
he's
if something-
passing it on to us and
I'm-
saying, hey, the county said this, the state said this, when they presented this back in August with us, that was the situation. There's no way around that.
Yeah. And I think we're all good on that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried we're taking some
Well, how
ability to respond nimbly, because I don't think if he says, hey, we need to go remote or something like that, it's not gonna last that long if he doesn't. But you guys are saying he shouldn't make that decision, we have to meet, and that would require us to do an emergency meeting and
How about we do this? How about we give it a limit of, say, a week?
Okay.
Because we can meet within a week.
Yeah.
And then after a week,
Or
it's up to
if
us.
he makes any changes,
Yeah.
that automatically, institutes a special meeting, so we will meet within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So anytime he makes any sort of, if he feels there needs to be a change on this, then automatically, we're gonna go, there's a 48-hour special meeting, and we'll have time to meet.
Yeah, that sounds good.
If he makes any decision at all about anything, we
anything
have the
that
right to
changes
call a
in-
meeting and change that direction.
Yeah. But,
About anything. Anything that he does, that we say, hey, that's not what we think the district needs, that's not where we wanna go. We could say, hey, Brendan, we need a meeting to talk about this.
sure, but sometimes
About
it's hard to
anything.
get three people to agree, and if the president doesn't want to agree. But in this case, we're saying right now, it's automatically gonna kick a special meeting if he makes a change to face coverings, close contact exclusions, or vaccination test
Yeah,
requirements.
yeah, within 48 hours or whatever. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I think that gives us the flexibility to be smart and move quickly, but then still give the confidence of any fears that there's a power
Gives
grab.
him the ability to act immediately, and then we can step in and guide. Yeah.
I'm good with that. Anything else?
I do kind of just want to throw out there, I have been contacted by several parents who have told me that if mask mandates are reinstated within the school, a lawsuit will be filed, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes.
And that's understood. I think that's understood because we had the alternative. If we had done anything other than enforce what was mandated, we would have had lawsuits as well.
The thing is, school districts have a lot of thorny legal questions. And we have a law firm on retainer that specializes in education law. And that's why it took me so long to respond. It said this meeting up is because we were waiting for them to say, what is the best road to attack? So what can we do, what is legal for us to do? Because honestly, we pay them a lot of money and they're very good at their job, so we're gonna use it. So anytime we're making any sort of decisions with this, as touchy as it is, it's gonna be calling them first and say, hey, here's the situation, what's your advice legally, and move forward with that. And we really want to, because we want to make sure that gives good protection for the school district as well. Because if you jump into something because that's the way you feel, you're gonna get yourself, you can get school in trouble. We don't want to do that.
So I think C, rather than striking C, I think C should be modified. Leaving the paragraph as is, but appending to the end a statement saying that any proposed changes by the superintendent should result in contact of school board members and initiating a special meeting within 48 hours if changing anything contained in section 1.
Got that, Jason?
No.
So
I thought I was tracking with you guys, so I made all the changes.
No,
All right,
so
we're good.
C stays as it is.
All right.
But you append the statement regarding contacting the school board.
So I add the C.
And, yeah.
Or maybe you add, after that, G, saying, any changes to section 1 institutes a special meeting within 48 hours.
Contacting the school board to initiate a meeting if there are any proposed changes to section 1 or remote learning. And I would append it to C. I wouldn't add another one.
Okay.
Because C allows you to track and do the work of looking at the local conditions. I think that's important.
But D covers remote learning, so if you want to change that, then.
Yes, just adding that as well. So we have an example of need for remote learning. And we talked about striking D.
Yeah, so we're just pulling verbiage from D and moving it to C and then adding.
Good answer. Any changes to section 1? Or remote learning options? Should initiate contact with the board to vote on proposed changes to section 1 on remote learning.
We're saying we're doing the 48-hour.
Yeah,
We're giving ourselves
saying
that.
material changes. No, that's okay, or remote learning, no, that's correct, remote learning. Material changes should be addressed by the board. Okay.
So you wanted a period there?
Yeah. Get rid of or, material changes should be addressed by the board within 48 hours. And again, this lasts through June 30th, gets us through the school year. We'll see how things work.
should be changed to shall.
Should we change the what?
Shall.
That's fine,
Stronger.
that's fine. Yep, shall be addressed by the board in 48 hours, yep. All right.
So D is gone, is that correct?
Let's do it.
I want to make sure we know what we're voting on when we make a motion. I changed B.
Yeah.
Does that reflect what the board wanted?
In A, we're striking that, but we are also putting in the 48 hours, so are we
Yeah,
striking
so I
that?
would unstrike it.
Yeah,
from
so
that.
we'll keep that, because you're gonna make those adjustments, and then we'll just know that we're gonna meet on them within 48 hours.
Now, reading E, it almost feels like you're making a decision without being in meeting, which we can't do.
Conjunction with the school board, so I think that's.
So he can implement,
That's
and
right.
then we have to come back and.
As the school board determines.
So take the,
So it's not really in conjunction, he'll implement it and then we'll check it.
Right.
So implement as the superintendent determines appropriate, conditions, yada, 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 and then.
Just be careful, where did the school board verbiage go?
So we pulled it up because we can't make a decision in conjunction with us unless we're in.
Can we just see that again? Can I see that?
sure.
It feels like he's gonna call us and ask us to make a decision with him, and we can't.
Right, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have, but I think with,
Because that,
See,
taking that
there's-
out acknowledges the change that we made
yeah.
by adding
But,
that.
you know, we should say, he informs us immediately and again. have us-
In communication with the school board maybe instead of conjunction?
Yeah.
In communication with the school board, yeah.
How are we feeling?
I'm feeling better, thank you.
I gotta reword this.
It's fine, when you're done, we can go to the whole thing one last time.
Yeah, that's better.
Better word, English teacher.
I kept reading that, it didn't look right.
Sometimes with Brown.
Oh, that's why they don't come to our
Periods
meetings.
and commas.
All this.
How about another semicolon? Come on, we're getting there. Bonus points.
All right, should we start over?
Let's do it.
Section 1, these are the mitigation measures that we want, at least what we want to vote on.
The ones that are changing there. There's a lot of others that, like air movement and all that other stuff that's not changing and staying the same. Right.
And we just acknowledge as a board together that making these changes to mitigation measures, you know, will affect the quality of the teaching for many of the teachers that have spoken today and others. We just have to acknowledge that we are saying to our teachers that we're not able to meet their needs and what they've asked us for.
And we have to accept that there is going to be a degradation in some of the quality. And that, so if we're willing to accept that, then we just have to say, okay, that's part of the package.
I don't think that's necessarily an accurate statement. I think you'd have teachers that would say that
Well,
the
some,
quality
but
of
we
education.
literally have teachers say
There,
that.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm
But
not
I don't
saying
think as, I
overall.
don't think as a board, we would say overall that the quality of education will go down.
No, I don't, okay, if I said the word overall, then I
Yeah.
misspoke.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is I just think it is our responsibility as a board to acknowledge the fact that this, moving forward with this, which I believe we're all on the same page on, and we're working it out the way we like it, we do need to take a moment to pause and remember, yes, this is where the law is taking us. But we also know that our responsibilities to our teachers have to stay in our minds, and a responsibility to provide a safe place for all students. These are things that we are weighing in the balance.
And
These
I
are
think
heavy
that's-
things, and that's why
That's
it's not
agreed.
easy. I mean, again, we're moving forward quickly, and I don't want to slow us down, but at least an acknowledgement of the weight of this decision in light of that.
And I think we did good in our last meeting with asking Jason to communicate with, the leader of the teachers union to, come up with at least measures to help the teachers.
And there we are, Dr. Lind is serving the community,
Yep, he's doing
not
good.
ribbon power, just serving as always.
Have we all read through it and comfortable with it?
Looks good.
All right, can we have a motion?
So moved.
I think you need to specify what your motion is.
I move to adopt the resolution approving mitigation measures against COVID-19 and superintendent's authority related to pandemic operations for 2021, 2022 school year as presented.
I second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Goss?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Gray? Mr. Lorenzen?
Yes.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Federini?
Yes.
Ms. Roberts?
Yes.
The motion fails.
Thank you very much, everyone. We have a motion to adjourn. We need a motion to adjourn.
You do need a
Very
motion.
well.
I was just gonna make a comment that I will communicate out the result of this to parents tonight, so that, you know, what to expect.
You set up fireworks and stuff like that.
I heard a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Have a great night. Thank you all for coming.